What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Eric, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to delete your throttle body coolant lines. Now you guys are probably wondering to yourselves, why we even have this system set up like this from factory. And it's actually fairly simple. The reason you have it is because there is some parts of the world that it gets extremely cold. If you allow the throttle body to get extremely cold, it's possible that it might freeze up and the flapper inside of the throttle body won't move freely. Now, you use coolant in that throttle body because coolant has a lower freezing point than regular water. So that's the main reason why you guys have this system set up like this. Now, although coolant is necessary, from preventing this throttle body from freezing, luckily for me, I actually don't live in one of those places that it gets extremely cold, and it never really ever freezes here in Phoenix, Arizona. So for me, it's not really necessary to have these coolant lines going to the throttle bodies. Since your engine is a combustion engine, it's basically producing a lot of heat already as it is. So by running the coolant that's already pretty hot to the throttle bodies, the only thing you're doing is heat soaking your vehicle more. So deleting these lines going to your throttle body will bring down the temperature of your engine a little bit, and you might notice some difference. There is dynos out there that show a positive gain from deleting the coolant lines to your throttle body. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. So as promised, I'm going to show you guys how to delete these coolant lines. What I have in front of me is a intake manifold from a G37 coupe. Now, this is the 3.7 VHR intake manifold. It's a little bit different from the HR manifold that I have on my 350Z, which is a 3.5. Now, the process that I'm going to show you in today's video will apply to both of these vehicles. For the 3.7, it might be a little bit different, but I'll try my best to explain to you guys what you guys need to do. So this right here is my 2008 Nissan 350Z HR. Now, this engine, like I said, is similar to the 3.7. There is some minor differences in the back of the engine where we're going to be working. I'm going to go ahead and remove this engine cover so that it's easier for you guys to see. It's just held down by a few 10mm fasteners. With those engine covers out of the way, you guys can see that we have a lot more working area here. So we're going to be focusing on the back of the engine and the throttle bodies. I'm not going to remove my intakes because it was a pain in the butt to get them on. So we should be able to work around that, and I'll show you guys how to do that here in a second. We're going to go ahead and start disconnecting some lines in the back of the engine here. So I'm going to start off by removing the 10mm fasteners that is holding down the metal rail on the back of the engine. To make it easier, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this connector here that goes to this vacuum line here. This is going to make it just easier to remove this 10mm fastener that's right next to it. With those two bolts removed, you'll be able to wiggle these lines a little bit better. So the next thing that I'm going to do is remove this connector. It's kind of just supported by this metal bracket here. All you gotta do is just get one of these tools and pry it out. The next thing you want to do here is follow down this hose all the way to where it clamps down to the pipe. You want to go ahead and unclamp it there. It's a little crammed in here, so it's hard for you guys to see, but the clamp is just right underneath this hose right here. Let me see if I can give you a shot. It's right there on the bottom. You guys can't focus on that because it's too far away, just go ahead and get a long needle nose plier like this, and then you'll be able to remove that clamp. I did manage to get the hose out. Unfortunately, it did break on me, but no worries, we're going to be replacing it with something else. So now that you have this rear hose removed, we're going to go ahead and start removing the hoses that go to the throttle body. I'm going to start off by removing the vacuum line that goes to the intake manifold here. So I have my pliers here, and I'm just gonna wiggle this guy out, just like so. Now that you're at this point, go ahead and remove these two lines that go to the throttle body. So as you can see here, I did get these two hoses disconnected. Now that you have removed the two lines from this side, go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. The driver's side connections are a little bit different because there is one line that goes down to a pipe right there that you guys can see. So that's the only difference. But once you're done removing those lines, this pipe and hoses will come out. Alright, so we got this side removed as well. Now the only thing that's kind of holding this down is this hose over here that's connected to this sensor. So you want to go ahead and unclip that as well. And then to make it easier to remove, go ahead and remove this clamp and hose out of the way. Alright guys, so we finally got this assembly out of the way here. Very complicated design. I don't know why, you know, they build things so weird looking. But I'm glad that we're gonna get this guy out of here. It really isn't necessary, especially if you live in a warm area and you know you don't have to worry about freezing temperatures. So you guys can see here that by removing that, we opened up quite a bit of space back here. So we're gonna lose some weight and we're gonna remove complicated things out of the vehicle. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that with small little fittings. I'll show you guys how to make them here in a second. This assembly right here is for my 350Z. As you guys can tell, it's a little bit more complicated when you compare it to the 3.7 VHR. This right here looks a little bit more simpler, but the process is going to be very similar. I think the only thing that you guys are not going to have to do is disconnect that tube that goes in the back of the engine. I don't think the 3.7s have this, so you guys might just need to disconnect the throttle bodies to bypass that. Since we did remove the vacuum line pipe along with the coolant pipes, we need to make our own line. So what I have right here are about a foot of 5/16 fuel line hose, or I think this is actually transmission cooler hose. It doesn't really matter in this case because we're just gonna use this as a vacuum line. So anything really would work. It's not gonna melt or anything like that. So whatever is cheaper you guys can get. But basically I have a foot of each line right here. So one of them is going to go to the driver's side and the other one's going to go to the passenger side. This pipe right here, it's about 4 inches. So you want to make this go to the sensor. Now the next thing that you're going to need is a T so that you can merge all the connections. You can either use a plastic one or a metal one. I found this one at O'Reilly's for I think 10 bucks, and it comes with an assortment of different sizes. So that will probably be the best thing for you to do, so you don't have to worry about this ever breaking. But basically once you have a T, you're going to put these together like this. One side is going to go to the driver's side, the other side is going to go to the passenger side, and then this one's going to go to your sensor. Now the last thing that we need to figure out is how to plug up the holes that we left open by removing those pipes. So I have very short piece of 5/16 hose right here. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fit a bolt through here, and I'm gonna push it in all the way down into it at the bottom, and then I'm gonna clamp this onto the pipe, and then this is gonna be basically shut from now on. So I'll show you guys how that looks here in a second. So this right here is what I'm gonna be installing on the 350Z. I did end up going with the 3/8 fitting just because it did fit a little bit tighter on the hoses, and as you guys can see here, I have my other fittings that I'm going to use to plug up those holes. I have the bolt clamped and I have the other side clamped as well, so that when I install it I can just force it in and I don't have to mess with clamping it on. I would probably put some silicone or some WD-40 inside of this hose so that it's easier to go in when you're putting it back together. Alright, so I did put the hoses back on off camera. Pretty simple to install. So as you guys can see, I have one of the hoses going to the intake plenum here. I have the other hose routed up to the sensor. I need to clamp that on. And then I have the T down there. And then I have the other side right over here going to the other part of the intake manifold. And then as far as the plug, I went ahead and plugged that hole right there with coolant was coming out, so that's now deleted. I'm gonna do the same thing to the driver's side with this other plug. So if you guys remembered, there is another hose right there. It's kind of hard to see, but that hose right there in that pipe, I need to plug that up with one of these. So in order to get this side of the hose out, I need to use a small, long pair of pliers like these. This will fit in there nicely and remove that clamp. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. To plug up this pipe, it was a little bit more challenging, but as you guys can see, I did manage to get that on. That shouldn't leak at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and put everything back together. I'm gonna let the car idle for a bit and check for any leaks. Right now I'm letting the 350Z just idle and I'm checking for any leaks. So far I haven't seen anything. The car is idling fine and there's no check engine lights. Now there is a lot of ways that you guys can go about deleting this system. You don't have to remove these pipes if you don't want to. I personally think that it looks messy. That's why I removed them. You guys can leave them on there if you like. All you would have to do is just find a way to plug up those two ports that introduce coolant to the throttle bodies. Regardless of what method you guys go with, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be happy with the results. If you guys did find this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out.